Hello, Lulu. Guess who's coming to dinner?
Projects that they do with
Uh-huh.
the
With the industries. Okay.
research. And we really don't want to mess up that relationship. So I said, okay, that's good. Now let me go back and ask again. How come we haven't done some monitoring to verify what the companies are doing?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, now I heard the answer. And if you give me the answer, I'm going to go right back and ask that same question because we're missing a very important point here. I know what you're doing and why you're doing it, but see, the people in the community are saying this. So we need to get, and what you're saying does not connect at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I said, what's the real deal? So one of the researchers said, we don't have the money. You know how much money that costs to do the monitoring? I said, okay, is that what you need? So I went to Senator Neal and I said, Senator Neal, I need $350,000 so we can start a monitoring program. And so he looks at me, he says, well, write the proposal up and let me see and explain, what you need. And let's see what we can do. So I did, wrote it up, sent it to him, sent it to Neil. But we got the money. So once we got the money, then we set up, we just had to do the project.
Right.
So money included basically buying the equipment, buying the chemists, setting up the lab, and getting it ready to go. To do that, I made sure that I had all the regulatory agencies at the table. So there would be no mess up once we did this. So there was EPA, the local air pollution control district, the Kentucky Division for Air Quality, and actually that's the one where the money came from, was the Kentucky Division for Air Quality.
Okay.
And so
Well,
this was
that's kind of where it should have come from, huh?
right, right. So there was an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, that was
Okay.
written. The partners were the West Jefferson County Community Task Force, University of Louisville, and of course the Division for Air Quality.
Okay.
And so, of course, our role was the community role and making sure that the community was involved. And then, of course, the regulatory agencies were the regulatory agencies. They did what they were supposed to do. We hired a firm from out of town because we didn't want anybody to be connected,
Right.
locally. So we hired a firm. The firm did a year's worth of and
A
under
year's worth of what?
monitoring
Monitoring. Okay.
and under EPA guidelines. That's all you needed to lay the foundation. So we laid the foundation for a year, and what we found 10 chemicals that were above standard. We found five that were quite a bit above, and one kind of way out of the wazoo. So once we found that, I did another dinner, but it was for 203 people this time.
Uh-oh.
And so, yeah, of course, there was, it was in the paper and it was a free dinner. So we had a few people there just for dinner. We realized that.
Right.
But the one thing that in the RFP, the request for proposal, when we wrote that up, one of the things was they had to explain it to me prior to the community. I wanted to make sure they didn't have a bunch of technical things that the community did not understand and would not feel comfortable. But they were supposed to come 2 days before we presented. They showed up that morning. So the ink was still wet at 6 o'clock that night when we were presenting because there were so many things. I would just sit there and say, I understand what you're saying, but you know what? They're not. So we got to rearrange that so they can understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time 6 o'clock came, we were all prepared. Now, the one thing, Janice, that happens many times when you're dealing with the community is when you're dealing with fear or anger or upset or unknowing or wrong facts,
Right.
then you have a tendency to put things in your mind. And when we presented this, we actually laid it out. We showed that the community was absolutely correct. They were right.
Right.
When they're talking about smelling things and eyes burning and, you know,
Right.
chest, we proved them. And thought I was very happy. But there was a small group that decided that they were going to, I think they said we denounced the report. And
Denounce the report?
yes, there was a group of community members that said we denounced the report.
Hmm.
Well, I kind of understood what was going on, but you had people from University of Louisville and um, the researchers. I mean, they were in shock because they really thought, this is well, we've done something for these black people, okay, and they were. So
And
I
they're
just
still not happy.
yes. And that's probably what they were saying. But I said the one University of Louisville representative had the mic, and I told him, I said, can you just give me the mic? And so, I mean, he was like stuck. I had to almost cry. And so, I told him, I said, you know what? And they left. We denounced this report and we're leaving. Okay, fine. So I asked, I said, is there anyone in here that does not want to improve our air? I mean, just raise your hand.
Simple
Because
question.
of you raise your hand, it's over. It's a done deal. Why would we continue to do anything else if
Right.
you don't want us to do anything else? And so not one person raised their hand. So
Okay.
I said, okay. So from now it looks like we're working together. And then I gave the mic back to him. Because and then I told him, I said, there's a great thing. Of course, it doesn't look like it makes any sense now. But I told him, I said, that Second Amendment kind of says that we can say anything, basically, we want to say. So that group had the right to say what they want to say. Not necessarily did it make sense to me, but if it made sense to them, that's fine. We started from then on, and we had to write what we called a risk management plan.
So what year was that it really kind of took off?
I'm sorry, that we did monitoring. We wrote the grant went from 1996 to 1998. The environmental justice grant
Okay.
went from 1996 to 1998.
Okay.
The monitoring money came in 1998.
Okay.
The end
Okay.
of it, because we didn't spend all of it, so it kind of extended out past the 1998 a little bit. So basically, let's say 1999, we
The reason
started.
I asked that question because I wasn't living here.
Right.
And um, just actually when I came back, when I moved back home,
hmm
then I found out about the air.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Along with that, uh, as we had talked about, we live in a valley,
Right.
and when we talk about underlying conditions, just about all of us have underlying conditions because we have allergies that just goes along with being in the valley and not having the dryness that we should have.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, well,
So,
it was a shock to me because I'd hate to say had I known,
mhm,
then I may have stayed someplace else. But see, I came back because of my mother. So
yeah,
it,
yeah.
it probably didn't matter what was going on. I just had to deal with it. And
Oh
I'm
yeah,
glad I did. I'm
oh yeah.
absolutely glad I
We
did.
all we all do.
Yeah.
I don't actually going up on the hill. It didn't. My
Was a
allergies
help.
didn't bother me that much at all
Oh, okay.
till I
Okay.
would come back to Jefferson County. And then when I had my first son, my allergies, everybody says I gave them to him because his allergies are bad now, and I don't have that many allergies.
But Arnita, did the community, like when we were going to school,
hmm
was it obvious that we had an air problem, or was it
During
discussed?
during that time, we have to remember that EPA did not come on the scene until the 70s.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
so we really didn't
Wow.
have a legal. We had what we call it was like a smoke test and they built like buckets and they put them up on posts, and it would actually, collect the
Right.
ash and stuff, from all the smoke. It was really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we have to remember that years ago we had sewage that ran straight down the middle of the street. And so a lot of people don't know that we were already messed up, you know. uh, but
Yeah.
but but the chemical companies basically monitored themselves because of OSHA, and because they wanted to make sure that their people were as safe as possible. So what rules they developed was for the safety of their workers, not for the safety of the community necessarily.
So I didn't hear you mention OSHA when you named those organizations. Was OSHA at the table as well?
Oh, well, no, 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 because OSHA was for the workers, for the workers.
Okay. Okay.
They that's occupational safety and health. So they, that was their charge, was for the health of the
Okay.
people. So
So the
basically,
people working at the plants.
well, yes, people
Okay.
working at the plant.
Okay.
And so it was, and I get in a little piece later about that, which
Okay.
got to be a great thing. Once we discovered all this, we had to put all these plans together before they finished the monitoring. Okay. So once they finished the monitoring, we already had our risk management plan in place. I thought EPA was crazy when they told us we had to do that before we knew what the results was.
Right.
And the risk management plan was what we were going to do in the event we found this, and this. That
Right.
was a little hard to do when you didn't know what they were going to find, you know.
You had to be proactive without knowing what you're being
Right,
proactive about.
right,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
And once we did that, and that included a lot of people. A lot of people were invited that didn't come and didn't show up to
Okay.
from the community. That it was a process. It was a process, and it took us about a year to get it together. Uh, but once we got it together, and once the monitoring had been done, now it was time to put it into place.
Okay.
And the weird thing is that it was like a pyramid. It started like education, outreach, awareness when you find something. And at the bottom, it was legal action. Well, once we found that they had violated the standards, there was no place to go but straight to the top, straight to the bottom, and that was legal action.
Legal. Right. Okay.